I'm Amy Cherry. This local news is a service of Flagler County's Toyota dealer, Beaver Toyota, here to wow ya. Authorities say they're closer to making an arrest in a Palm Coast murder last October. John Arking reports.
A search warrant was executed Friday by the Flagler County Sheriff's Office Major Case Unit, along with the Domestic Homeland Security Unit, Tactical Unit, and crime scene investigators at a home on Berkshire Lane regarding the October 12th murder of Dion O'Neill Jenkins at the Circle K convenience store on Palm Coast Parkway. Jenkins was a passenger in a vehicle when he and the driver were both shot in the early morning hours. The driver survived. During the course of the investigation, the Major Case Unit was able to identify multiple co-conspirators who are believed to have played a role in Jenkins' death, with a connection made between the occupants of the Berkshire Lane residence and the murder, which led to Friday's search warrant. Multiple items of evidence were recovered and removed from the residence. Flagler County Sheriff Rick Staley said their detectives have been working the case since it happened, and that, quote, the walls are closing in. He asked anyone with information about the case to come forward and said that multiple persons of interest have been identified, and it's time for them to decide whether they want to be a witness or a defendant. The Flagler County Sheriff's Office has partnered with the Florida Sheriff's Association and Crime Stoppers of Northeast Florida to provide a reward of up to $10,000 for information leading to the arrest of the killer and any accomplices. Anyone with information can call Crime Stoppers at 1-888-277-TIPS and will remain completely anonymous. From the WNZF Newsroom, I'm John Arkin.
Flagler County deputies solve a year-old car burglary. Tony Magoo has the story.
Less than a week ago, 2 defendants were arrested for a string of car burglaries here in town. Those 2 were linked to a year-old case in Flagler Beach. On January 8th, Flagler County Sheriff's deputies arrested 26-year-old Shimelise May and 23-year-old Rakane Johnson for some local car burglaries. They've been charged with additional burglary charges dating back to January the 18th of last year from an incident that occurred at the Fitness One on Old Kings Road in Flagler Beach. At the time, that victim reported that the car driver's side window was shattered and cash, credit cards, a debit card, and a Social Security card were stolen from the victim's purse. One of the stolen credit cards was later used at the Palm Coast Target. That incident was captured on surveillance cameras. When Johnson and May were arrested last week, detectives spoke with May about the Fitness One case when she gave up Johnson as her co-conspirator after he used that stolen credit card. May and Johnson are still in custody at the Sheriff Perry Hall Inmate Detention Center, both being held with no bond. For Flagler's Morning News, I'm Tony Magoo.
We have capacity for the growth we're experiencing today. We have capacity for the community.
But as Palm Coast looks towards the future, it's going to need a new wastewater treatment plant. City Manager Matt Morton tells WNZF the city will see 30,000 more residents in the next 20 years.
This is something that's been planned. It's been talked about for a long time. It's a known quantity that was coming. We're reaching that 80%-ish threshold of our use capacity, and that's the time in the industry when you say it's time now to look towards the future and make sure that we have the necessary infrastructure this community needs to continue to thrive. You know, we liken it. We said we're a young family. We're a young city. This young family's still got some growth potential ahead of it, and we need to do our part to be prepared for that.
A new wastewater treatment plant will cost $20 million and will be paid for through a combination of things.
Those impact fees that come online can pay those capital costs. We have good capital reserves in the wastewater, the sewer plant, and in our operations, and you generally use those to insulate ourselves against short-term volatility, to do small capital projects, or to balance against great grant opportunities. While the money we're seeking from the state revolving fund, a state fund, isn't necessarily a grant, our last loan with them was a 0.07%, and a recent loan was 0.17%. Our investment pool at the city last year, we averaged 2.4% return on our money. So this type of utility financing is smart. It spreads that cost over the useful life of the asset, so growth can pay for growth.
Plans for the new wastewater treatment plant will be introduced to Palm Coast City Council in a workshop this week and could be voted on as early as next week.
How is Palm Coast faring as a citizen-centric government?
Mayor Melissa Holland went back a few years ago to when she ran for mayor.
I heard loud and clear that a lot of our residents felt dissatisfied with our approach on how we treat businesses, our approach on how we were responding to our residents. And it wasn't necessarily a criticism of our staff. It was really just the process.
Holland said the process had been going on for years, but that city council started changing things. They looked at things from the customer's perspective, and they hired City Manager Matthew Morton. To listen to the entire interview, download the Flagler radio app and then go to the Free for All Friday podcast. Tomorrow, how Matthew Morton changed the mindset at Palm Coast City Hall. From the WNZF Newsroom, I'm Deb Albertson.
And now you're up to date on Flagler's Morning News. I'm Amy Cherry.